Hey, what up, everybody? This is a special evening tonight of Phil John's VIP. You know, I had to catch this lady when I could catch her. You know, she's busy. She's in LA. She's in New York. She's in Toronto. She's in London. She's just all over the place. You know, producing and content creating and, you know, just being the star that she truly was born to be. So I had an opportunity to catch up with Miss Andrea Lewis. Yes, I'm excited because she's going to be here talking to me about all things past and all things that are coming up in the future. You may remember her face from the Natalie Cole story. She was a child actress and now she's grown up and she's doing big things. You may remember her as Hazel from Degrassi, The Next Generation. Also, she's done a few episodes of Soul Food. And her YouTube sensation, you know, Those Girls Are Wild. You know, she's done that, and she's definitely self-empowering and self motivated young lady who is empowering, who has the ability to empower other people. So with that being said, that's why I'm really excited about having the conversation that I had with her. I met her. I can't even. I don't want to give a number, but I'm gonna say it's been at least over 10 years that I've met her. She had a film screening in Brooklyn. I believe it was Williamsburg. My mind is a little off, but she had a screening in Brooklyn, and of a series that she's working on, and I went to go support her, and she's just been, you know, going full steam ahead ever since then. You know, please, if you when she comes on, I want you guys to go follow her. If you haven't followed her, but I'm going to give you all that information as soon as she comes on. Also, if you can follow her YouTube channel, I'm going to give that as well. So I'm just going to give a few minutes because I'm waiting for her to come on board. Who's that's following me? Thank you for joining me, that one person I see coming in to join us for tonight. So I'm just waiting on this Andrea Lewis to get here, and we can get the party started. But today was a good day for me. Here in New York City, it was a little hot, but now it's a little tolerable. I got my rag on the side just in case I need to wipe my forehead a little bit. But I'm just, you know, glad to feel cool weather at the moment. But my guests have arrived. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to introduce you to the force that has yet to be reckoned with, Miss Andrea Lewis. I'm going to get her on, and we're going to talk it up. We're going to chat it up. That's what we about to do. We about to chat it up. Yep.
Hello.
What do you do?
How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. You can hear me all right? Everything's good?
Everything's good.
Okay, good.
Everything's good. I was giving your resume.
Oh, I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying to, there we go.
You know, I had that on the promo, the whole glitter, the black glitter thing going. I had it on the promo. What's going on?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's been forever. I was just trying to tell the people. I said, I think it's been over 10 years since I've seen you. I think I was at a premiere in
Probably.
Probably.
It doesn't feel like that though with social media. Like you don't realize that it's been like a very long time since you've like seen people in real life because you're like, I feel like I see them all the time. So it easily could be, but it doesn't feel like that.
And everybody's always busy and sharing. At least I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to share a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you're just a boss at it. You're just a boss at it. Like it's definitely in your DNA.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't think I'm that good at sharing. I know people that I think are like really good at it, and I think I'm like trying my best. That's what I think.
Well, you know, we're Leo, so we can always fake it.
Yes, Leo can fake it, but I tell people, I'm like, Leo is more shy than people would acknowledge.
I would agree.
Leo doesn't always like the spotlight. They like a very specific spotlight. They like or at least my kind of Leo. I'm like, I like the spotlight in a very specific way, but I don't just like want to go to a party and like be the person talking the loudest or something like that. I'm not like that at all. And people never believe that. They're like, no. And I'm like, no, I'm just not. So yeah.
I'm always like, listen, I know a lot of people, but you know, I don't have a lot of friends.
That's a Leo thing. Knowing everybody, but you're like, only a couple people to actually like. That's the thing.
So how was the trip back to LA?
To LA? It was great. It was actually really easy. I mean, flying right now is weird because there's all this additional stuff that you have to do. So flying is not as fun as it once was. It can't be just so like on a whim. Like I just reminisce. I mean, I took my last on a whim flight was in December where I didn't have to like get tested and get this and get that. And so that's kind of annoying. But then at the same time, at least like international style flights, like I haven't had any that were packed. Like they're so empty. So you're literally like, oh, I'm by myself on this plane. This is great. And I think flying in some ways is more relaxed because it's
a lot of
not
people
as many people.
The hassle.
Yeah, even though somebody told me recently that every flight they've taken domestically has been packed. And I was like, oh, I haven't taken a packed flight in a really long time. So, there's that. But the testing and quarantining rules, that stuff is really annoying. But, you know, it's just a part of the process. So.
Yeah, I've been through it. I mean, I just auditioned for a project where they were going to quarantine me in a room for 5 days.
Yeah.
And with pay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I'm like, how much money you guys losing? Because you paying me to do nothing.
Well, basically, but I think every production has to factor that in now. Like if they're going to, you know, have kind of the outside, but at the same time, I guess that's your per diem because you'll still need to eat. You'll still need to, I don't know, maybe order something like so. Yeah, so you just have to factor it in more than anything.
So let's get to you.
Yeah.
Let's get to you because I want to let you know that I'm so proud of you. And I think the one thing that always connected me to you, and I don't know if I told you this before, but one of my best friends from high school, right? You two look like you could be like sisters.
Really?
And her name is Shima Kelly. She's probably going to watch this. So her name is Shima Kelly. Yeah. And I always say, yeah, you know, I spoke to little Shima. And I'm referring to you to her. I'm little Shima. She's like, oh, okay. I'm like, because your energy, not only just aesthetically how you look, but just your energy also is so much like hers.
Okay.
It's like a familiar spirit. When I usually speak to you. Okay. So that's why I get that. Yo, listen, you mess with Andrea, I'm coming for you. You know, watch yourself.
I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate it.
No, good. So tell me this. Do you remember the first gig that you ever booked that was like that one gig? Be it a co-star or whatever. And what was that like for you?
You mean like something that you felt was like, oh, it was a big deal?
Yeah.
Maybe when I did Down in the Delta. I did Down in the Delta, which is a film that was directed by Maya Angelou. But I was a kid. I was like 11, 12 years old. But it was the first time that I'd had like a lot of callbacks for it. Mm-hmm. And not like, I was kind of used to like one callback and then like, you're going to find out. But it was my first time having like maybe 3 or 4 different auditions for this one process and like the room adding a person every single time. And even though I was a kid and I remember they like asked us to improv and all of that kind of stuff. So I think in that process is where I realized like, oh, this is a bigger deal than maybe I had assumed or my parents had even explained. Like they just kind of was like, yeah, I don't know, some film, right? And didn't even, I don't think they even knew that like Dr. Maya Angelou was the director. I don't think they had a clue. So I think it was only after that I was like, oh shit, oh, okay. This is kind of a big deal. And my grandmother had this huge reaction to it and like stuff like that. So that was maybe my first time recognizing that you could get big opportunities more than anything. That big opportunities can kind of just fall into your lap, I guess you could say. And in this business particularly, because you kind of, you know, just doing it, but and hoping for something great to happen, but I don't think you can predict what the thing
Absolutely.
is. I think it just kind of shows up where it shows up. So that might have been the first thing that I was like, this is a bigger project than I had realized, and it had more formalities than I had known at that age. So yeah.
And Maya Angelou was a big deal.
A very big deal. A very big deal. And so that's what I mean. Like my grandmother was so excited that like at the wrap party, you weren't allowed pictures or anything like that, but they let us take a picture for my grandma because she was there with me. And it's a Polaroid, and my grandmother has it framed. Like, because it's like the only, you know, it was the only picture we were allowed, and that's why nobody had a camera, so it was only like a Polaroid thing. It was, but yeah, she's a very big deal.
The years of the Polaroid, man. That I remember those days.
Yeah.
Totally. So listen, I listened to, I know you did a couple of conversations with your bestie from Degrassi, The Next Generation.
Oh yeah, Christina,
right?
yeah.
And I happened to look to listen to one, and one thing that I wanted to ask you, something you said, not really ask you, just piggyback off of what you said about being the person of color that was on set and just wanting, say, give me something to do. Mm-hmm. At what point, because I feel like that happens when you're kind of like the brown face in the white place, and you're like there. So was there any point where you vocalized and said, listen,
always. I mean, I've literally always been that type of person. I mean, I grew up in white spaces, so I'm really accustomed to speaking up in a politically correct way, I guess you could say. I never come at people really crazy or aggressive, but I think you have to be vocal. I think it's easy to complain about stuff when you haven't done anything, but if you've done something, then you have real reason to speak up, to say like, okay, hey, I am having a hard time. And so, yeah, I mean, especially as a teenager, that experience was unique because you don't have all the language, but you just know something isn't quite right here. And I've been Black my entire life. And so, you know, it's like when you're out in the world, I think the one thing that used to happen to me all the time was my aunts and stuff like that and their cousins or whatever would be like, I saw you in the trailer, I saw you in the preview, but you never speak. You're never speaking. Like that would happen to me all the time. And I'm fucking 15, 16 years old. So you're like, I don't know what to tell you. So I used to talk about that, truthfully. I used to like bring that back. Like that this is something that like my own community vocalizes to me. And these are just day-to-day people watching something. So, you know, but those things, they just are what they are. I think that's just the plight of being a person of color on set. I think those stories are kind of endless. Even recently, one of the actors from Kim's Convenience wrote a whole article about his own experience on that set of majority white execs. Yes, that's a cast that was predominantly Asian. You would never think that, right? But they were literally like, no, we vocalize this every year. Like, these are stereotypes. This is not correct. Or how come you're doing this to my character? And nobody does anything. So I think that's just, and like, that's now in 2021. So those type of things, they're endless. They're just a part of being in this business. And I think that's why after a while, creators or people of color have to create their own space, the kind of space that they would like to see, the kind of environment that they would like to be in, because you experience all of it, really.
Totally. My experience has been, I don't think that they really know what to do or what stories to tell.
At all.
Second is that they're afraid of, if they do, they're afraid of getting it wrong.
Yeah, I've experienced people these days who are afraid of getting it wrong. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I didn't. I just experienced people who didn't know what to do because literally in their own life, they don't have that world. Yeah. So it's hard to see something that you really are not familiar with at all. And that as like, it's like a mix of like ignorance and innocence, because you're like, you don't know any better. You literally don't have anybody around you that reflects the real world. And so in reality, how am I to
Which
expect to
boggles my mind.
like, yeah, but it happens. I mean, it happens all the time, right? And
Yeah.
I've seen it, funny enough, as I've gotten older. I've actually met people in the reverse. Like, I've had conversations with friends who like lived in very predominantly Black environments, like Black neighborhoods, Black school, Black church, and even went to an HBCU and literally did not have to see a diverse world until they like graduated college. Like, and so I'm like, what? Like, I can't even,
How
that's
does that happen?
so extreme on the other end that you're like, oh wow. So it does happen to every group of people.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to the world of uh, television and film, it's because you are trying to reflect something that's supposed to be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
that's where you run into the like, hey, this is actually not accurate in any real way. So it's, you learn and you just keep going, and that's really what just you have to do.
Yeah. I went to a Christian private school as well, and I that introduction into the world for me was very diverse. So for me, really maneuvering through life, when I went to a HBCU
Yeah.
purposely, you know, but to just really get a full sense of self for me, and to understand my responsibility, and that it's a mandate. Certain things we're just mandated to do by
Yeah.
default.
Yeah.
Period. As we move along in this industry, and we have a responsibility whether we want to or not. That's
Yeah.
just the role that we've been given, to say the
Exactly.
stories that we tell. And a lot of times I always say, like, I think it's unfair to put too much pressure on the actor of color to always show up in even a positive light,
Mm-hmm.
because the negativity does exist. So
Yes.
to say that we are all going to graduate from HBCUs, or we're all Michelle Obamas and Barack Obamas, would
Yeah.
be a lie,
Yeah.
because that wouldn't that wouldn't be human.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. Completely. Plus, I also think what's interesting is it's like people put a lot of pressure on actors, like an actor of color in a cast where nobody else is looking like them. People put so much pressure on that one person to represent so many things.
Yeah.
And actors know this. You're like the least important on set. Like, nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about your opinion. Nobody cares about what you want to do. Nobody cares, like, even it's like, I'm gonna shoot a film next week, and the director really wants to have a rehearsal just so the actors know exactly what we're gonna be doing, and on the day we're not like, hey, so do you think, and it's like, because that's the
Don't ask me
reality.
no questions.
Like, don't ask any questions. These are the rules. You are an actor. You come in and you're supposed to just portray the words. That's it. And people forget that. I think they think that you make it up, that you're
Yeah.
just like going with the flow, and you're like, no, I'm not. I'm not
Oh,
at all. So yeah.
grab your coffee, go to your trailer, shut up, stay out of the way.
Yeah.
When it's time, hit your mark. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Exactly. That's it.
That's it.
So yeah.
That's pretty much it. That's dope. So let me ask you a question. What do you do to stay in a positive frame of mind? Because I don't know if you spoke about it before, but a lot of times I know for myself, there's always a heavy, I have to stay busy. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
person that I have to stay busy. I got to keep working. I have to have multiple things going on in order
Mm-hmm.
to be my happiest.
Yeah.
When things slow up, it's like this heavy weight comes upon you that you just can't get rid of.
Yeah.
So what are the tools that you've acquired that help you get through those moments of when the phone is not ringing, nobody's getting back to you, and things are just slow?
Um, I like to reflect a lot on like what it is that I actually do, and not that like my job is to have an agent, or my job is to like audition, but like my job is to actually act, or my job is to actually like make stuff, like actually create. And so then when I kind of center that, I'm able to focus in a different way. So training will happen. Like now, okay, maybe there's not a lot of auditions going on, but like I can take a class, I can act, I can find ways to act, I can find ways to express myself. And if the lack of creativity is what's making me feel heavy or making me feel down, then that's what I have to fill myself up with. And so that's typically my like process of like when I'm not feeling quite right. It's like, well, why specifically am I not feeling right? It can't just be the like, oh, you're not on that television show or something like that. It's like, no, what do you really want to do? What do you actually think your purpose is, or what you're supposed to be doing, and what's blocking you from doing that thing? And so focusing the energy is essentially what I try to do. If I'm starting to feel down, it's just like, to me, it's almost like as if you just, the heaviness is really because that energy is not being used. And so it's like, well, where can I put it? I always tell people, like, when I'm not being creative, it shows up in many other ways. All of a sudden I'm like endlessly thinking of recipes. I'll like think of like, it's like just so, it will just force its head into my life. It will be like, that's fine. Let's think of outfits every single day. Like it will just really do something. And so I always know that like when that's happening, that it's like, oh, that just means, okay, how can I kind of redistribute that feeling and put it somewhere else, put it to the place that it actually needs to be, and focus in on the thing that I actually think that I do. Because oftentimes, at least my experience of my friends that are in this business, what gets them down is the business. It's like not their actual craft or not their art. It's really the politics. It's the things that are completely out of your control. And so in order to combat that, you really have to think, what do I control? What can I actually do that will, that I can maneuver, that I can change, that I can do something else and put this energy towards this thing. And hopefully you'll feel better. At least it always makes me feel better. And then honestly, environment and diet are the next big things that I'm like, if you're ever depressed, honestly, you can look at your diet and start to think, no, dead seriously, what am I really doing that is affecting me? What supplements am I not taking? I saw a friend of mine tweet today that she's been taking like prescription vitamin D, and she's just shocked at how much it's changed her like depression, like how much she's not having depressive modes. And sometimes people think when you say diet that you know, they're like, okay, I'll stop eating cheeseburgers. But it's like, no, it's more than that. It's like, legitimately, what are you actually adding or not adding to your diet to just help your mind? Yeah, like, you know, and so I think things like that, those are my two ways of kind of combating it. And then also, like, you're a person, you're not always going to be happy. Sometimes you're going to be down. Sometimes you're going to be like, this sucks. Like, and you just have to kind of keep going because there's nothing else you can really do. Like, you're going to have to, like, feel that feeling and then find a way to be like, I'm not living in that. I'm going to go. I'm going to go do something else. I can't stay in this mode. So, yeah.
Well, I can tell you for me, I wrote my ass off in this pandemic.
Yeah. Like, people were busy.
Yeah, I wrote my ass off to the point where I'm scared to really share because I'm like, I think I got some good shit.
Really?
Let me, you know, register this real quick.
Okay, that's why you're scared, because you don't want it to be taken. Okay, got it. Yeah.
We'll do it.
Yeah, people will do it. They do it all the time.
You look up and your shit is on Netflix. And you're like,
people do it. So you do have to be careful and you do have to copyright your stuff. But it was an interesting pandemic for people. I mean, I was so busy, and I know a lot of people that were really busy, and I think it's, but I also know people that were not. But I think every person got something that they needed out of it, whether it was to relax, whether it was to work harder, whether it was to reconnect with themselves or reconnect with their family, whatever that may be. But everybody I know that was able to see it in a certain way got something out of it that they needed so far. And it's still going, mind you. It's totally still going. It's not over, but yeah.
Yeah. Were you friends with Siddiqui?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I remember, yeah.
Yeah, we had Siddiqui on my web series Black Actress.
Yeah.
And he just was the sweetest and most talented and passionate actor.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so passionate and so good. And that was 12 years old. Really, really difficult. My friend Allison, who got to work with him more directly on Black Actors, she can barely talk about it because it was really hard and really, really shocking. And but yeah, such a great, so good, such a great talent, so good.
Really, do we meet spirits like his that travel through the industry?
Yeah, had a life, like a real life. Like I've been through a lot, seen a lot, and was just like using it through his art. I love when I meet actors like that are not just kind of like, oh, I want to be an actor, but like they had like a real life. Yeah, like they wanted to have like.
Take it.
I mean, every now and again you meet those that like they've experienced something and then now they got into the arts. Yeah, he was a special guy.
Absolutely. Listen, so I want to take you through my 5 Oprah Super Soul Sunday questions.
Okay.
I go through with everyone. And, I wanted to say this too. My friend Ryan Bethay had said to me, well, not to me, but she had made a post about taking back your power. So even when the times when you feel like you can't do anything, you have to find ways to get your power back.
100%.
And writing for me during that season was definitely one of them.
Good for you. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
All right. So here we go. There's nothing to be alarmed about.
Okay.
I'm not going to ask anything crazy. And I usually ask people before, like, what do you not want me to talk about?
Yeah.
I'm pretty just, I'm cool with it.
Okay.
So what's your perception of the business now as opposed to when you first started?
When I first started, I was a kid and things just felt like they just happened. And now I don't think that. I don't think anything just happens. I think you can control the whole entire thing. And I don't think you can control maybe the length of time that something may take, but I think you can control the path. And you just have to be very stubborn in terms of making sure you're on that path and very determined. So that's what I believe within the business now.
Amen. I agree with that. So what advice would you give your 19-year-old self? And it's an interesting question for you because I'm like, I know that you were a child actor.
Yeah.
So you were kind of caught in between.
Yeah, I think I would.
At that time.
I know 19 was an interesting age for me. It was like a really great year, but also like, I think I would be nicer to myself. I think I would tell myself to be kinder because at 19, I used to feel so much pressure to be further ahead. And I don't think I was really like appreciative of really anything around because like internally, I didn't necessarily vocalize that, but I used to feel very like you're nowhere. And I think I would have been nicer to myself for sure.
Yeah. 19 is that, and I chose 19 because it's always that age. Usually you're like maybe sophomore in college. There's a shift that happens there.
Yeah.
So usually we're kind of in the process of still figuring it out.
Yeah. 19 was it's like, it's an interesting age. It's an age that I liked a lot, but at the same time, I can just remember feeling very like when kind of thing. Like when will certain things work out or when or what to do and like really thinking about it. And I did not have nice thoughts. I did not have any nice thoughts about myself at that age. So I wish I was just kinder to myself. So that's what my advice would be then.
Yeah, we're always our worst critic.
Yeah.
What feeds your spirit?
I like laughing. That makes me feel very good and feeds my spirit. I love observing people be people. So whether that's in the park on a walk or sitting around with my friends or even watching a television show, I genuinely like feel really fed. That was probably the hardest part of the pandemic for me at first, was like I realized in that moment how often I just refuel by observing people live. And so I do like to, I'm always fascinated by people and hearing their stories or hearing just little things that they're doing. And then honestly, anything like live performance and where somebody's like really giving it, like even if it's not good, but they're just like really committed.
Yeah.
And seeing that on them, I'm always so inspired after. I'm like, oh my God, like that person really did it. Like they're so brave, or they're so confident, or whatever it may be. Like
you
that
see their
always,
heart.
yeah, like you can, I always, that's my thing for like New York. I'm like, when I was living in New York, I felt like I so often saw somebody performing and like no fear at all. And you're like, oh my God, that must just feel so good to be in that place, to perform, and you could care less about what anybody's looking at, thinking, saying, doing. Does not matter. You're just like you're full on. And like that probably feeds me.
I that's why I started doing these videos. That's exactly why I made a commitment in September to do, and I highlighted you as well in that mix of women of color who I knew and I felt just inspired by, because you know, not oftentimes we sit back and you're like, damn, I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, and people who are doing well. So sometimes it's not always about me, but it's about the people who are doing well and celebrating them. And for me to get on this thing and do what I do now, I have to do it with intention. I'm not the person that gets on camera and says, you know what, I had a donut today and you know it didn't taste. I can't do bullshit. It has to be intentional for me.
No, intention is key. That's one of my things of 2021. Like just everything should have some real intention. Nothing should just be like, oh, I guess, like, you know, just like really, really do it. Really think about it. Really do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you like your legacy to be?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe that I made people feel seen. I made them feel appreciated. I think that often, like that's kind of something. It's like if ever I get to work with a young actor in any capacity, I always feel very purposeful. I feel like, oh, this makes sense for me, especially like young Black actresses. Oh my God, it's like I just live whenever I'm doing stuff like that. So yeah, I think if there was anything, I mean, obviously, yes, the arts and all of that kind of stuff, you want people to notice. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's really how you make them feel. And so I think I would love at the end of it all that people were like, she made me feel represented.
Yeah. I see that. I see that.
Okay, good.
I always say, and I think I said this to you before, that I feel like like your energy and your presence and part of your purpose is to inspire, uplift, and empower, especially women and young girls that look like you.
I appreciate that.
And I don't say that about everybody. Let me just be Andrea, I don't say this about everybody.
Thank you.
Let's be very clear. Okay. So, last one. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my mom. I have the best mom. She's just so great, and I'm very grateful, honestly, for my life. I have a great life. I'm really appreciative of my friends, the friends that I've you know, just collected over the years, I guess you could say, right? When you really start to reflect on like, oh, dang, I got very fun friends. And yeah, I'm really grateful. I like wake up with a lot of gratitude. I'm a big believer in gratitude, especially when you're upset or feeling down, or I think gratitude can help you to like just come out of whatever you're in. And so I really do. I'm extremely grateful for the life that I have right now. So yeah.
So which one do you love better, New York or LA?
You know,
you already know Toronto's your hometown.
I know, and they're so different. It's so hard to say it. I mean, a lot of the times people will be like, I'll be like, oh, New York is easily my favorite city. And it definitely is. Even just the other day being in London, lots of parts of it reminded me of New York, but it wasn't New York. You know what I mean? Like, but parts of it remind you of New York, but you're like, but it's not quite New York. And LA, I've spent the most time in, so I know it very well. Yeah. And LA is like in a time capsule. It doesn't change. It has not changed in any way for like 15 years. I don't know how, but I'm like, it does not change. And so I could leave for 3 years and come back and the pizza place will still be there. And the like, everything is the same. And so I think, but they're so different that I actually think you need a mix of both. Mm-hmm. I think you can have a lot of time in New York, but then you can feel kind of overwhelmed by it. And so you need to take a little mini break. LA can make you feel also a little bit like, oh my God. Yeah. So it's hard for me to pick, honestly. At this time in my life, it's really hard for me to pick between which, but I'll probably still give it to New York. I just love New York. It's so fun.
You have to. There's no other like it, you know. I love Toronto too, though, by the way.
Yeah, I like Toronto. Toronto's a beautiful city. But New York, I have a special connection to New York because New York really like made me open up. It like really like just broke me open and like made me into, I think, who I am now. And so that's why I'm so connected to it. And it's like, there's just something about it. I mean, it's really like no other, like at all, especially like if you can have a good time in New York, like if you're really gonna just like have fun, oh my God, it's the best. It's
and I always feel like, you know, here's where you find your tribe. For me.
Yes. Yeah, like creatives, really great creatives are there. It's like, yeah, I'm like, no matter what happens in my life, I'm always like, certain times a year, I'm genuinely like, oh, I need to be in New York. Even if nothing's going on, I'm like, oh, I need to get to New York because it just like comes over you. So yeah, it hasn't left my vision board. It's still like my place. And like my dream is to like book something like massive that films in New York and you're there for like just like a whole year and all paid expenses. I'm like, I just dream of that.
So there's so much stuff going on in New York now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's great.
So what are you working on next? What's coming down the pipe for you? Anything you care to share? Whatever you don't want, don't share.
Yeah, no, I've got a lot of things. I start filming. I start filming next week of I'll call it a romantic comedy. I'll call it a romantic comedy. I'll leave it at that. You will see when it comes out. It's got some edge to it. An indie film by this director named Jamal Dado, and I'm really excited about it. And then I'm doing a beauty documentary that's going to be filming towards the end of the summer. I'm super excited about that. And then we're trying to figure it out, my team and I, if we want to do one more season of my web series Black Actress. We're really trying to decide. The restriction thing with us, though, is that some of my cast is Canadian and some of my cast is American. And so it's like, where can we do it that you're not going to have to quarantine people or like, you know, it's all of that kind of stuff. So, but those are the things. That's how my summer is rolling out. So, yeah.
Well, Andrea, I want to say thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I'm so glad we got to do it.
I'm so happy. Listen, I usually, you know, I was kind of restrained because we're on camera and I'm live. So, you know, I don't want to say anything that I'm going to have to go back and retract or apologize for. But yes, please, let's stay in touch. Whenever you're in New York, let's get together for milkshakes.
Yeah.
You know, so it is what it is. I'm only a button away.
Yes.
So, like I said, you need me to kick somebody's ass, it's just a phone call. Okay. And I wish you nothing but the absolute best.
Thank you.
You know, keep
and
your heart intact, keep your spirit intact.
Thank you.
And continue to elevate, my sister.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And same to you, honestly.
I appreciate that. God bless.
Okay. Have a good one. Bye.
Later.